Alright, welcome back. It's another training game. I did do some tactics sessions, but had a little hiccup with the video recording, so it didn't record. Nevertheless, I've done some training, so let's now play a training game. Okay, something a bit different. We have the English opening. Not often played, at least in my own personal games. And so I'm going to just want to try and play in a way that's reasonable. I think this is reasonable. What I'm trying to do is castle quickly. Maybe I'm going to play this kind of thing coming up shortly. To start with, I'll castle. Okay. And he's got quite a grip on this square, but he's also closed off this bishop of his. So what do I want to do about this whole scenario? I could try and just crash through, but he'll take with this pawn most likely. Then I could do this and just try and open that position while this king's still potentially vulnerable. So that's one way of maybe attacking things. Another way would maybe be c6 followed by d5, and then if takes, maybe I can start by taking here, but he's also going to have his queen coming in if he doesn't have the knight there. So in all those circumstances, after takes, he's actually still got what he needs in that regard. So I could maybe play something like this, get my own bishop here. Maybe after take, do this, try and put some pressure on this pawn. So what I'm actually going to do, I'm going to do this, which seems a bit odd in that I'm opening up this diagonal for him, but he's closed it. He himself has closed it. And now I'm attacking this pawn directly. So he does defend it, but this is now a backward pawn, and I guess it always was. And this is possibly a nice spot for me to hop my own knight in future. And possibly the not too far future. In fact, I think we might as well try and get a knight up there pretty shortly. This pawn can always come here if we want it to. And we're playing a game. Not thrilled with the position. I might even want to bring this knight over this way, especially if he castles. And then I might even play stuff like this in future, in the distant future. But, I don't think I'm worse here. Now he's threatening to get his knight into this square. Of course I can take it if he does land there straight away. Thing about going to d4 straight away is he takes, I take back, and then this pawn might become a bit odd. I can take here, he probably takes with his knight. Then I can jump the knight up here, and that might be a little bit better. And if he takes with the pawn, he's got a slightly odd pawn structure. And it also thereby gives me time to do this knight maneuver. I think that's what I'm actually going to do. Takes with the knight, I jump in here, and then he takes here, or jumps in here, which is what we see. I'll always be ready to push him out with something like c6. He doesn't have the same luxury. Okay, so he pins this knight. I'm not super afraid of that though. Why not just h6? He comes here, I take. He does this, I do this. I could also start with c6 here to keep this knight at bay. That would be very reasonable as well. Then if he takes, I just take back and no big issue. But I'm going to start with h6 because I don't really care if he jumps his knight in here. I can either take or I can just drop my queen back and prepare to do this later. I could even drop my queen somewhere here. Yeah, so I'll pre-move the capture so we don't waste any time. He does move in for the kill, but in the first place I can take. If he takes back, then I can just play d6, and this whole structure is frozen. So that's one thing to look at. But another thing might be just to move my queen somewhere. And probably this is the square that most makes sense because it defends the c7 pawn. And it seeks to play c6 in future. I could also maybe play this move, but that keeps his knight kind of where it is. Now, taking here and then playing d6, I think is pretty decent. Although maybe my c7 pawn becomes weak there as well. I can defend that many times. So it should be pretty even. That's a pretty even looking position to me. Whereas this, I think, preserving this option maybe is the better way to go. But then we're always going to have some pawn troubles, it sort of seems to me. This could even be an option. Take, and c5. If he takes back, then I do that. You know what, I like that. I'm going to take. Then I'm going to go c5, followed by d6. If he takes, I'll take like this, and then I'll push that pawn further up. If he pushes the pawn, I can take. But in the meantime, my knight's very strong. I dare say stronger than his bishop. Now I can take. He can take back with his rook though, so why should I allow him that tempo? I can also just play this, and if he takes, take back with my queen at that point in time. I can put my queen here right away. If he takes, I take. The rook, my queen there is actually pretty safe. So I think a move like this actually does make some sense here. It's just that it blocks my d7 pawn. So maybe I could even do it this way. So I can follow up with that. I think I like that, possibly even more. So let's try this. And he takes. We take back. I think the queen here, like I said, is safe. Can't attack because our knight is just so strong. His bishop, I don't think, is super strong. He can attack this pawn once, but I can either push it forward or defend it. Maybe I could even try something like this in certain circumstances. Take. Seems like I should have that as a possibility. He does this. Now, I'm almost looking at discoveries against this pawn. I don't think they quite work as yet, like moving my knight away so that I can win this pawn. Could think about this move immediately. f5 immediately is interesting. But after take, it does open up his bishop a bit more. So it has to be calculated specifically. Let's say he pushes this pawn, he's attacking my rook. I can take here with check, then move back. Or if he takes here first, and then pushes the pawn, then I can come here. Seems ever so slightly odd to do it that way. But my knight is very strong, and it would be nice to play a move like landing my knight here if possible. So maybe after this takes and I come here with the knight, threatening this. So even if he pushes this, I can jump my knight in here, hitting his queen. He moves the queen, I move, yeah. So some possibilities, and maybe just d6 is a nice idea as well. I think that's what I'll play because it just means he can never push this pawn. And that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. Now we could even consider this not quite check actually, because I thought after he took we could take the rook, but his other rook still defends as well. But we can certainly consider this f5 idea again, and if he takes, we can consider taking with the knight, threatening this fork. not having to worry about anything here. So I think that could be a decent option here. Could be a decent option. I just don't want his bishop getting active. If I take, he takes back. Then I can just put a rook here on the c file and claim to own the c file. He can dispute the c file. But after take, I jump up here. I like that. I'm just going to go onto the c file for the moment. The only thing I wonder is if he then just relocates his bishop with tempo. I would go rook c7. And then what? I think that's a possibility. But take, and then this, so that if he comes here, I can come here. Looks relatively nice. I think we can try that. The only issue is after take, and I come here, this rook, this pawn might fall, so maybe take, and I move this rook here. That might be a way to do it. And then trying to get up here with some piece or other. His bishop, though, could become annoying. That's my only real hesitation. So if I play this immediately, he takes. Say I take with my rook. It's very reasonable. If he does something like this in that scenario, I do still have this check. And then moving my other rook around. I actually prefer that. Let's do it that way. We'll open up towards his king rather than towards his queen side. This is all self-sufficient as far as I can tell. And if he takes, I think I take with the rook. He can attack my queen if he wants. But I can move my queen away without too much trouble. Could also take with the knight. Then he attacks my queen. I can come here with a check. Which would force him to move into the corner. Then I could land this attack on the queen and bishop. He moves the queen. I take the bishop. He takes back. And, you know, I think that looks pretty decent as well. So I think I've been playing reasonably so far. Hopefully no massive blunders, but my knight is nice. And his bishop, although it would be nice here, maybe he doesn't have time on account of me already having played f5. Okay, so he takes one pawn here. I could choose how to take back. Could even take this pawn. But I feel that taking this pawn allows him to recapture with his bishop and strengthens his bishop quite a lot. I don't want to strengthen his bishop. So I think I just take back. If I take like this, it does give him a passed pawn. But I do have that pawn under wraps pretty heavily at the moment. So let's say take, he takes here. It's an interesting moment. Whereas if I take like this, it's... you know, it keeps his activity a little bit less, you know, he's a bit less active. But it means this pawn's backwards. So here I have a really nice, you know, solid pawn structure. Very solid pawn structure. Really no weaknesses in my position. I just have to worry about this pawn advancing sometimes. And after take, he comes here. I guess I have check to start. He moves. And then I take. Then he pushes. I take, he takes. I come around here. I'm just afraid of this pawn becoming a queen sometime. Is that a legitimate fear or is it just an irrational phobia? If so, I can take this way or this way. What else can I do here? There is a check. He can simply take, though, in a variety of different ways. Taking does strengthen the bishop. Does it have any upsides? I'm not so sure. Let's say he takes with the bishop. I can take like this and then swing the other rook over. Either with a check or a tempo against the queen. I think those things could be worthwhile. If I do this, he gets this file. But he can't do much with it, as far as I can tell. I can immediately contest the file. Maybe I'll just play this move too. If he takes, I take, but he's really opening up his king side there. Do need to come up with something relatively soon. Am I really afraid of this? This. I could take with the knight. Then after this is played, I can come here. And it sort of looks like I'm just going to win that pawn. Yeah. I don't think I need to be afraid of it, even though his bishop does gain some strength. His bishop gains a bit of strength, but I think after this, let's say take with the knight. Even if he pushes this, I come here. And because everything's so solid, I should actually probably be able to round this pawn up somehow. And then just be a pawn up. So I'm going to recapture probably with the knight. Just make sure there's nothing else to worry about. If he brings the queen in. If he brings that queen in, then I can still just put the knight here. To blockade the pawn, for example. I could give a check first. Or I could take with the rook. That's another option. Then if he pushes, I just still come here. Leaving the knight where it is probably also makes a lot of sense. Taking with the rook is maybe a bit more forcing because I'm maybe going to double my rooks on this file, which could only really be good for me. Alright, so he does not do anything there. So he's actually going to allow me to either take or maybe push the pawn forward, which possibly is what I prefer doing here. Pushing to f4, keeping this structure as it is, and thereby keeping his bishop blocked out along this diagonal. So f4, let's say he takes, I take with the rook. If he takes again, I take back. And his king side's very open. My rook's being able to come over soon. Although his bishop can come here, it's not going to have much influence there. So I really like that. If he pushes further down to try and avoid the trade, I can push further forward, hitting his bishop. If he takes, then I can take, he can take, I can take, he can take, but I take a rook at the end with check. So I kind of think this is working. Yeah, I think this is working. Keep his bishop at bay for the moment. And we can play something like this. Looking maybe to play this, take. And just trying to open him up here. As well as maybe suggest that he allow me to double rooks. My pawns are strong. He does have a pass pawn, but it can't get anywhere at the moment. Interesting position. Can't move his queen here because of the check, which would fork the king and queen. He also can't move it here, even if he moves the king first somewhere. Something like this would run into something like that. Okay, so here I'm going to take. And you can see his king side is open. His king side is open. I'm ready to swing my other rook around. And things seem to be moving in my favor. I thought this pawn move of his was a bit slow and a bit irrelevant. So as it is now, something like this I don't think would be great. I think I would have options. I'm not saying that would necessarily be it, but I think that would be one of the options I'd have. Always now we have to start looking at concrete moves and concrete variations, because pretty soon, at any moment, we could have a lethal mating attack. We could also go very wrong, so we just need to be very careful and systematic about how we proceed. We've got 5 minutes on the clock. This is an easy move to make if we need to make something quickly, but we should, depending on what he does, look at all the checks and captures very briefly and see whether there's any winning combinations there. You know, this check could be really nice. Okay, he takes, we'll take back. There's really not a lot to consider there. Okay. Now, he might try and get a queen trade here. We don't have to allow it though. And after check, if he blocks, we've got this check, which I love, because either he moves the king away and we take the queen, or he moves the... Oh, I think this is a blunder from him. Because like we said, after this check, he either moves the king away and we take the queen, or he moves the king this way and we bring the rook here. And I think that's just winning. So I'll go check. Also after this, we can just... Okay, so he's moved that way. Fine. I didn't consider that, but I'll just bring the rook over. This is a kind of a no-brainer move. Bringing the rook into a game with tempo against the queen. Rarely is that going to be a bad idea. All right, things are going nicely. Where does he go with the queen now? He goes there, does he? Okay, keeping an eye on some things. Now we need to find a way to proceed. How best to do this? We can put a rook on the 7th rank. Typically not a bad idea. But we need to be very, very concrete here, like I said. We could put a queen here. A queen trade, though, seems to relieve some of the pressure. He wants to push this pawn, don't forget. Don't forget that he wants to push that pawn. And we need to do something about that, I'd say. We could double on the F file. Say he pushes the pawn. Not completely convinced. Maybe we do this just to prevent him from pushing forward. What other options have we got here? I think getting the rook to the 7th is typically nice. We're threatening this in that case, and then just win this. The rook from here can also protect the d file later on if this pawn starts marching. So let's say something like this. Queen has to move. We can take this. Also the knight jumping back here or here will also defend against that. So I think we have time for this, but I'm just not 100% positive. Also, yeah, I think that's what we're going to do. I think this is what we're going to do, because also it's really bad to get a rook to the 7th rank. Our knight's still beautiful, controlling important squares that he might otherwise want to use in the future. So our knight's just beautiful. We might play something like this and put our queen here and go for a mate. We might just try and collect these pawns. When he pushes this, we might come here, just to keep an eye on this promotion square, or we might do that later on once he only gets, here. Then we come here to prevent this. In the meantime, we try and increase the pressure on his king, which must take priority, because if we mate him, getting a queen won't matter. And what does he do in the meantime? He's under some pressure here. He pushes his pawn, understandably. So I was thinking about this move now, hitting the queen, and I still like that move. If he pushes this, like I say, we can just bring our knight back and we'll be defending against his promotion. We'll also be still attacking the queen. In fact, if he pushes, we take the queen first. So he moves first. Oh my gosh, I did not mean to do that. I just had a little mouse slip there. That's unfortunate. I mean, that move was obviously not on my radar. I didn't mean to do that at all. Nothing really to do but resign. Had a little accident there. But we can see what the position was like, and I'll come up with my move first. What was I actually going to do here? Now that he's moved his queen out the way, I think I was going to probably take the pawn. Definitely have to be careful. And the computer's saying it's a dead even position, which makes me think I probably went wrong, because I think I probably had a stronger attack at some point here. But, you know, this pawn is undoubtedly quite strong. I think what we probably have to do, if we take the pawn in one way or other and he pushes further forward, then I think we got to come here. But he does have check there, which is probably disastrous. What we might need to do is move our king into the square of the pawn. Like maybe something like this right now. It's rather a tricky situation. Maybe even a move like this is best to directly defend this square, offering a queen trade to relieve some of the pressure. And after that, we can get our king over here. We can still look to take this pawn. So those both look like options, leaving our knight in its very dominant position in the meantime. Seems good. Yeah, otherwise he's going to go check, which I don't think we really want to allow, which he can do anyway. But there we move. It's actually a really dangerous position for me. Obviously, I didn't mean to give my queen away, but it would be very easy to go wrong here. Very easy to go wrong here. Probably went into too risky of a situation. If we go back a few moves, I do think that I probably had a better position. Yeah, it's 1.3 in my advantage. F4 was not the way to go. Now it's a draw. So was it just a draw from here on in? Yeah, here I did feel like I had something. I played this no-brainer move, quote unquote, which was in fact decent. And here I'm looking really good, but I have to find a way to finish things. I think that's where I struggled here. This rook f2 move is the one that threw the advantage away. What should have been played instead, I'd like to know. Do we now move the knight in? Maybe we have to move the knight somewhere. Looking for a check, which after he takes, we take back, but we've further opened him up. I'm not sure though. Yeah, this does look pretty good. This is probably decent too, I would imagine. Yep. But after the move played d6, which I did know he would play, it still says we're actually winning. So actually what I did was not wrong. This bringing the rook up here. The computer can't even make its mind up. Is it, in my favor or not? Well, it is now. Okay, so after d6, it is in my favor. But I need to play correctly here to prove that. So what's the correct move here? I don't know. Let's get a computer analysis on this one and then we'll call it a day. Unfortunate that, had a mouse slip, but you can see it was a very tricky situation. I'm not sure I would have got out of it. Even if I hadn't had the mouse slip. So we played this English, which I'm really not familiar with at all, and that's fine. That's fine. We just played some reasonable moves. Yeah, this was an inaccuracy and probably not really my style. If I were to try again, I'd probably play c6. Computer suggests just bringing the bishop back. In fact, it's not probably something that I would have done, but I think c6 would be fine. Yeah, it would be fine. But okay, we didn't do that. Let's keep going with the review. We continued on in a pretty reasonable way. This was all fine. It didn't like that one at all, so I'm guessing it wants to take with the other pawn. Yeah, and just keep this pawn under wraps, which is the pawn that ended up giving us trouble. And I knew that in taking this way, I was giving him this possibility. So, okay, yep. I guess I should have done it this way. It did not like this at all because I had an opportunity to apparently win a bishop. How? By taking here. Oh, all right. What are the rest of the moves? Why would he take that pawn? Why wouldn't he play something like check? I take back. He takes this pawn. What am I missing here? Here, I guess there's maybe this check. The best move here is c4. We've just got this pass pawn ourselves that we should use. So that didn't really cross my mind, is using our own pass pawn after something like this. Okay, but next, take's all fine. It really didn't like my move queen e3 check. It really didn't like that move at all. So let's try this one again. What would we do here? We could take. We could bring the rook over. We could give a check, but that just gives this up for no reason. He takes with the bishop. Then we come in here. I think probably just bringing the rook over is probably fine, but what the computer loves most is actually coming back down this way. I don't think, it was a big deal. Likewise with the rook move, I think the rook move was okay. Have one more look at this rook move. So what should I have done instead of bringing the rook up? What move did it prefer? It wanted instead, like I say, jumping the knight in. Yeah, an interesting game. Obviously, unfortunately, in the end, I just mouse slip blundered my queen. So I guess we'll never know. But in the meantime, there's another loss in the training games. But we're going to keep training. We're not going to give up. And we'll see you next time.